Morning. It's been another crazy day in Brexit talks, which is the song that just doesn't end. Now they're talking about gunboats being put out into the Channel on January 1 to stop the French fishermen actually putting out their nets. It's just seemed to have got worse and worse here, Janie. It's definitely not looking like a deal as we speak.
If coronavirus wasn't enough, Stephen, because obviously that part of the world has been hammered by this pandemic, this Brexit, the whole thing is a mess.
I just think it's a crazy thing for both sides to do. If they walk away without a deal, we've already got economies that have shrunk in the UK for the largest amount in 300 years. So I don't think they need any more economic pain. We've already lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, if not up to 1 million jobs because of the pandemic. This will make it worse. But Boris Johnson has to play the political game internally because he only got elected to get Brexit done, and he didn't get elected to give a wishy-washy Theresa May style deal. So his internal people are saying, go for it, go for broke. And in the past, he's actually won by doing this. He said, oh, look, I'm going to do this no deal. And he managed to sort of pluck something out of the wreck in October or November last year, which actually helped him win the election in December. So I think the English and the UK side is hoping that they've got nothing to lose. But the French seem to be digging in on fish, of all things. It's going to be the cod wars because 84% of the cod eaten in France is fished from British waters.
We're also hearing, Stephen, about an Australian-style Brexit. What would that mean?
This is the biggest furphy. It is not, Australia does not have a deal. There's this whole thing about an Australian-style deal. Boris Johnson was reportedly seeing Waltzing Matilda in number 10 last week when he was hearing from the EU that he wasn't going to get his way. But Australia doesn't have a deal with the EU at the moment. They're actually negotiating a deal with the EU to get them past these World Trade Organization deals, rules, which is what they're up to now. So that sort of there are some basic tariffs and there are some restrictions on agriculture, which is quite a big thing for Australia, and will also be quite big for the UK farmers.
As this whole thing careers from one drama to the next and no resolution, there were millions of people who didn't want Brexit. They saw it as regressive. There must be some serious lament in the country at the moment.
It was about 16 million odd said no, and about 7.4 million said yes to Brexit, and that was 4 years ago. We're still talking about it. The Remainers, though, they seem to have lost a bit of their verve and a bit of their vim. They were quite keen to just get things done, and whatever happens, I think everyone wants some sort of resolution, even if it's a bad one, by January 1. And the only thing is, though, the Germans have said in the last few hours they want to extend the talks beyond Sunday, which is going to make it difficult because if there is no deal, work needs to be done now. They have to get the preparations done for their trucks, for their lorries, to get the paperwork organised. Otherwise, there's going to be car parks and horrific scenes as people try and cross the English Channel as far as goods go. So there's quite an amount of discontent here, and that's not even considering that most of the UK, or at least half, is already in Tier 3 coronavirus restrictions, which is effectively a lockdown. And they're talking about London going into lockdown again next week, which would effectively derail Christmas. People couldn't be able to go to the pub, and we'd have this sort of ongoing problem again, even though the vaccine has already been started to roll out here, and we had people being vaccinated this week, and there's enough for sort of 4 million doses or 2 million people by December.
Yeah, so much uncertainty. The clock is certainly ticking as we head closer to that decision. And as you mentioned, the vaccine rollout this week. And also scientists from the UK and Russia are joining forces to trial a combination of the Oxford AstraZeneca and the Sputnik V vaccines to try and improve that vaccine. I mean, how promising does this sound and what are the risks?
Well, I'm shocked that they've actually done this. It seems a very sensible idea. So what's happened is that in the Oxford trial, they say it wasn't by accident, perhaps by chance, that when people were given a half dose of the Oxford vaccine to start with, they did a better job in getting a 90% effectiveness rate when they had the full dose 28 days later. Now, the Russian Sputnik vaccine is a similar type of chimpanzee virus, which is the train for the protein that attacks coronavirus. So what they're hoping is that if they have two different trains which are going into the vaccine, if they're mixed together, that it might stop the body reacting to the actual virus, which is the carrier of the protein. So it's almost like when in the first trial, when people were having a dose or a full dose of the chimpanzee virus in the Oxford vaccine, that meant that they would then produce some antibodies to stop that type of vaccine getting into them. So if they work them together, they're hoping that they could improve the effectiveness above the 60-odd%. Now, but in fairness, 60% for a vaccine is extraordinary. A scientist, Professor Trevor Drew of the CSIRO, told me earlier this year that if they got 50% for a vaccine, they'd be very happy. And the current flu shot's between 30 and 60% anyway. So at 60%, it's great. At 90%, which is what the Pfizer vaccine is, that would be even better. So there's a good chance that will work, but I think the results of that might be several months away.
Stephen, just finally, just as from a humanistic perspective, do you feel a long way from home? What is life like there at the minute?
Tim, that's a weird one, because a lot of people are getting on with it as best they can. We've got the point where in London, at least, the pubs are open. People are quite... I think what the sense I get is that people are more worried about not being able to see their family than they're scared of the coronavirus at the moment from my friends here in the UK. It's quite strange because people who are here who normally would have gone back have been restricted from doing that. The flights are quite expensive if you're lucky enough to get one. But it's all a bit of keeping calm and carrying on. And for me, the big thing is that the vaccine's here, it's being delivered, and there's a fair bit of hope if that does roll out quite quickly. In about 3 months or so, we'll be back to some sense of normality. There is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But certainly not the usual white Christmas you'd have in the UK this year.
Well, you stay well, and thank you very much for your time today. Stephen Drill, Europe correspondent for News Corp in London.